There was a Christmas. Crisis lines are pretty busy at Christmas. The center was looking for, they couldn't fill the 10 till 2 and the 2 till 6 shift. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I said, oh, which one? I said, I'll take them both. And they're like, really? I said, yeah, I'll come down to the center here and just man the phones. Yeah, why not? I'll bring some movies with me, some junk food. I didn't have family or anything like that. And didn't have any money to go to Ontario to be with them at the time. So yeah, why not? And yeah, it's one of my favorite Christmas stories to tell. So I went down there. I didn't even get one phone call throughout that whole day.
That's Marc Lesperance, and this is The Stories That Brought You Here, a podcast dedicated to learning about some of the people living in and around the Salish Sea. I'm your host, Chris Wakaluk. From learning how to make maple syrup at his parents' farm in Ontario to working on a crisis center hotline on Vancouver Island, and many other things in between, Marc has had a lot of different life experiences. In this interview, Marc is going to talk about what life was like growing up on a small farm in Ontario, joining the Canadian military at a relatively young age, and after about 9 years of that, transitioning into becoming a radio DJ, and ultimately working with the RCMP and relocating to Pender Island. He'll also talk about an experience he had just a few months ago, going on tour through Europe with a local Pender musician, Sarah Smith, and speak about his other creative pursuits in his spare time. That and so much more coming up in an amazing little interview. But before we get started, there's a story that I'd like to share with you, and that is about my mom. So in January of this year, I went to Burnaby to record my mom's audio memoir. She recently turned 83 and her health is quite well, but I knew it was time to ask her to record her life stories. In my family, there's a lot of family photos that go quite a ways back, but there's not a lot of written documentation and certainly no audio documentation of people's lives. So my mom graciously said yes to doing this, and we spent about 8 hours talking on the phone over multiple days in early January. And then in the third week of January, I went over there for 3 days and we recorded for about 11 hours. During these conversations, I learned so much about my mom. I found out a lot about my maternal family history that for her began in Manitoba, and also about the pre-immigration history of her grandparents and their time coming over from the Ukraine. In these recordings, my mom shared stories about being a young teenager and playing piano and basketball. She elaborated on the story of how she met my dad, talked about their early life together before they had children, spoke about the ups and downs about being business owners and making a young family and a relationship work during those times in the 80s. And it is difficult to overstate just how fantastic this is that I have this. Now, I've done about a dozen audio memoirs for people in the past, and I'm really happy I encouraged my mom to do one, and I'm so happy she said yes. So moving forward, once I finish editing all the recordings, I'll have a delightful keepsake for myself and other family members to have about my mom and her life. If you are at all interested in having your own story documented on audio for your own personal memoir, or you have any questions about the process, you can reach me at myaudiomemoir@outlook.com. That's all one word, myaudiomemoir@outlook.com. There's a link for that in the show notes. You can just click on that, and I can let you know about all the steps involved in creating a wonderful keepsake for your own family to have. My audio memoir. Let your stories be your legacy.
I think it was like grade 7 or grade 8 in elementary school. I started up a lunchtime radio thing, like through the intercom system in the school, and playing some tunes during lunch and all that stuff. Then in high school, our high school actually had high school radio station. It wasn't a broadcasted. It was just like in elementary school, it's on the intercom system. And before and after school, I in the morning and then in the afternoons and at lunchtime as well. So got involved in that a little bit. And then real radio was a community radio station was starting up. And I'm like, yeah, I'm totally interested. And in Ontario, they call the program a co-op program. Here, I think they call it work experience. And so I signed up. I said, hey, I would like to have a co-op at the community radio station they're having. And they're like, yeah, we'll totally have you. They weren't on the air yet at that time, but they started receiving a bunch of donated equipment, records, and things like that. So what they had me actually doing during that co-op was entering the records that we received into the database. You know, song title, artist, year, all that, like a template of information. Now, keep in mind, this is like, I think it was like 1986, 87. So it wasn't like a database that you think of nowadays. It was very basic, very basic. Yeah. And then with the records, I would like put a category, like, you know, in the library, they have the stickers of like numbers, a Dewey system and everything, a system like that they'd had, so that they can find the records and the songs and whatever in the library. So I actually did that for my co-op, did that. And then once they got on the air, I had a little show, news and updates about what's going on at the high school. All right. Yeah, I did that for a year. And then I worked at the radio station actually as a summer student. Graduated high school, went off and joined the military. And then 9 years later, I get out of the military and was looking for a job. And one of the places I applied was a local radio station in the town I was in. And I applied on Friday, and the next Friday I was on the air.
Okay, well, this is the awesome story that you told me about a month and a half ago, and I want to dig into this a little bit because it's so serendipitous, right? So it happened really fast, and how did it happen so quickly?
I'd gotten out of the military summertime, and I was supposed to be going to the University of Victoria. I got accepted and everything, but I had to wait until the August long weekend, after the August long weekend, to register for classes. Now, this is the day just before the internet, so to register for class, you had to call in. So Tuesday after the August long weekend, I'm there calling in, and all the classes I wanted. This class is full. This class is full. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Right? Like, so I talked to someone there. They said, well, we can just put you in whatever classes are available. That way, there next year you'll be a returning student. You'll have priority over people like yourself who are trying to come in this year. Well, there'd be wasting a year of my life, more or less, right? Taking classes that I don't need or want, paying for them, just didn't make sense all around. So went to the local college, North Island College it was called, registered there for all the university transfer courses that I was wanting to take at UVic. They were the same classes, like they would transfer to UVic, etc. So I'm like, okay, now I need a job. Got to do something. Got to pay rent, right? Got to live. So I pounded the pavement. I mean, I put out resumes at like convenience stores, grocery stores, everywhere. And I was having lunch on Friday afternoon, having lunch at a bistro. I'm like, well, what else can I do? Well, I worked in radio in high school. I liked it. And there's a radio station just down the road. So I walked in with my resume. There's two guys at the counter. I said, hey, looking for work, you know. And the guy says to me, well, do you have an audition tape? And I said, oh, no, I don't, but I can get you one for Monday. He goes, yeah, perfect. Come in on Monday. Bring back an audition tape on Monday. So I bring back Monday. I make over the weekend. I make the tape. Monday I walk in. Yeah, here we go. All right, great. He listens to it. He goes, okay, yeah, you're a little bit rusty, but that's okay. He goes, would you be available to do some training? It's not paid. It's like come in, do some training, see how you feel about all that there over the next few days. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I can do that. Can you come and start tonight? I'm like, yeah, not a problem. So Monday, Tuesday night, from I think it was like 6 till 10. I was shadowing the DJ who was on the air and stuff. And then Wednesday, from 8 until 10, the DJ there, he had me on the air. He was like, okay, let's see how this is going. I was supposed to do that Monday, Tuesday, 4 nights. Friday, meet with them and see how things go. Well, I get a call Thursday morning from the station, from the program director there. And his name was Murray. He's like, yeah, we got a good report there from Wayne and all that stuff. So we're prepared to offer you, like, can you do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday nights for us? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And he's like, okay. So I'm like, when? He goes, Friday. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So kind of walked into that. I found out later, Murray was telling me later that The other gentleman that was at the front counter was the general director of the radio station. Just before I walked in the door, they were saying, what are we going to do? Because our weekend guy, he just gave notice. Like, we got to get someone for next weekend. And what are we going to do? And then I just walk in the door.
Yeah.
Right.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
What was the name of the radio station?
That was Coast Radio in Courtenay.
Coast Radio. Okay.
Yeah, in Comox Valley. Yeah. And my time slot that I was in, it wasn't just for the Comox Valley. I did all of North Island. So I was on the air like from Courtenay, Comox Valley North. Yeah, they repeated at Campbell River, Port Alice, Port Hardy, and Gold River. There were repeaters there for the evening.
It's such an interesting idea that you're looking for work and then you go to a radio station, right? Did you legitimately think that they were going to hire you, or
no? No. Got this person who has like community radio station, very minimal community radio station experience.
Yeah.
And had been working there for like about 10 years. Fresh out of the army, still has his army haircut, right? And I worked in radio a little bit in high school. Hey, what do you think?
But it's so fortuitous that a guy's leaving and they're so desperate. And they're like, okay, great, perfect. This might work out, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I ended up working there for a few years anyways. Yeah.
Same time slots the whole time, or?
At that station, yeah, the same time slots, yeah. I did take a break, like I think it was in 98. So I'd been there a little over a year. And they had hired a guy out of broadcasting school to fill that time slot. So, okay. So I would just do fill in. If a person was away on holidays, I'd come and fill in. And then that guy got fired. And they're like, Mark, can you come back and fill that time slot? And I was like, sure. It was a good time slot for me because I was going to school during the day, right? So I was able to work like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday nights. Not a problem. It fit.
Did you like it? Did you like
very
doing
much
it?
so?
What was it that you really enjoyed?
Getting paid to listen to music, for one. The inside scoop of like a lot of the music industry, meeting people. Like I still have friends from my radio days that I've kept in touch with. Not just like meeting people who work in the industry, but also the musicians, like meeting some of the musicians coming in for like interviews or what have you. What automatically pops in my head is Bruce Cockburn. Meeting wonderful artists like that and seeing that they're human, and because a lot of people tend to make musicians like a god kind of thing, right? They're just people like you and I.
Totally. Did you get to do interviews with people, or was that not in your time slot? Or
I did do some interviews. No, not necessarily my time slot. That was mostly reserved for like others. But every year there's a music festival in the Comox Valley. At the time it was called Comox Valley Music Fest, and now I think it's called Vancouver Island Music Fest there now. I remember one year in the summer, we were given backstage all access passes, and I thought it's only fair that I do some interviews, return the favor, pay it back kind of thing. So I was interviewing Spirit of the West one year. I had interviewed some of them. I tried to get an interview actually with Bruce Cockburn, but it didn't go. He was like, no. I don't do interviews now. No, I'm not here for that. That's not what he told me. That's just what I got through the grapevine when I said I like to interview him. Just a couple. I don't mean long interviews that go on for like 10, 15 minutes. I just a quick 30-second blurb, and then I would go into the station at night, put them down on carts, and then the next day, like let's say on a Saturday during the day, it would be played throughout the day, kind of thing. About like, this is going on at Music Fest. We got vendors, we got food, guess what we have at Music Fest? We have music. Right? Lead that into like, and then a quick interview with one of the artists or something.
Is there anything you can think of that from your experience there that you learned about the process about working at a radio station that most people wouldn't necessarily know, having not done it before?
Yeah, I guess. I'm laughing because do you ever see that show from the 70s, WKRP in Cincinnati?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
They got radio station down. That's, in a nutshell, what the experience was like. It's very much like that. You got, the community radio station I worked at. I couldn't believe the sales guy he does this. He comes out and he goes, see what I'm wearing? Yeah, I see what you're wearing. Notice the hat and the belt matches the colors of my shoes? Like Herb Tarlick. Right? I'm like, are you having me on? But no, he was dead serious. Characters. Yeah. Characters and just politics. politics about it. Whoever did the research for WKRP in Cincinnati, like they must have worked in radio, at least at radio at the time. I've been so far removed from radio there now that I'm not sure if it's still like that. Might not surprise me, but that was an era when there were small radio stations. They weren't all owned by like large companies, right? Like when I worked at Coast Radio in Courtenay, the general manager, the owner of the station, was his mother-in-law. Good people, though, really good people. I really enjoyed working with them, and unfortunately, the woman who owned the station, her name was Norma. She passed away a few years back there now. But I'm still in touch with Greg. Yeah, he was the general manager. Yeah, we send Facebook comments and stuff like that all the time. But Murray, the program director who hired me, he died of a heart attack. I want to say maybe about 10 years ago there now. Yeah, but he was a character. Never forget him. But as to your question, like things that you don't, like the general population might not see, well, there's a camaraderie for sure. There's a camaraderie. The last station I worked at was called Magic, and right beside Magic, like the studio, like right beside it, was a sister station. It was a country station. The station I was working at, it was adult contemporary. I was always working weekends because I was always working at different jobs or going to school, what have you, while I was working radio. By this point here, I was doing mornings, Saturday and Sunday mornings. All right. And, well, this was, I think, a year before I got a digital camera. So I brought in like this camera, not digital, like actual film, and started filming, taking photos. I took photos a few times there of her name, the DJ that was on at the same time as me, in the country station. Her name was, I think it was Marilyn or Marilee. Well, I got pictures of her there at the control and everything. And then a couple of years ago, I scanned them and I sent them to her. She's like, "Oh, this is amazing!" Right? So, getting back to your question, like there's a camaraderie, there's a friendship, it's a family, and and just like family, some people you get along with, some people you get along with, but not as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to get back to that a little bit as well, too, but I want to take a step back into the past and just touch on what you mentioned. You said that it was 9 years in the military, and then you left, and then you joined the radio station. So I know that's a big part of your life,
yeah.
And we should get into that a little bit, and I think here about how did you get involved in the military? You said you were living in Ontario when you were going to high school.
Yes, I was. I was raised in Ontario, born and raised in Ontario. At the time when I was finishing high school, there really wasn't much work or prospects, like a future kind of prospect or something. It's either you worked in the factories like your parents did, or you worked in the farm. I was raised on a farm. That's what you did. Or you go to university. Well, I didn't have money for university. I wasn't interested in working in the factories. Like I would see like some of my classmates and stuff going to the factories, cousins working in the factories, aunts and uncles. It didn't appeal to me. It didn't look like it was a kind of life that I wanted to have. I wanted something more personally meaningful. We lived not too far away from base Borden, and later on I found out or discovered that our family farm was actually on a training route that the military used for their driver training, where they're training people how to drive the army trucks and stuff. And yeah, it was on that route. Yeah, it was just kind of funny how I found that out. I don't think I told you this story before. I was in the military school in Kingston. And one of the guys, one of the courses, they come back from their driver training in Borden. And they go, "Hey, check out we broke down the side of the road, got pictures." And he's showing the pictures. In the background is our family farm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, holy cow, look at that. I don't think they believed me. What's this route? And then when I took the training, I'm like, can I stop for lunch? Right.
So what kind of farm was the family farm?
It was a dairy farm.
It was a dairy farm?
Yeah.
Okay, and what part of Ontario was this in?
More or less known as South Central.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the Georgian Bay area. And like on the, I guess the east side. Yeah, it'd be the east side of Georgian Bay, opposite Collingwood. Like from my bedroom, a childhood bedroom, looking across Georgian Bay, I could see the lights of Collingwood and the ski hills. I don't know if you're familiar with Collingwood. There's a Blue Mountain ski resort there. I can see those lights in the wintertime and stuff. So it's that's where it was.
And what kind of factories were in that area?
My mom actually worked in the GM factories. Yeah, so seatbelts for GM. I bought a car once, and it was a Chevy Cavalier. And the first thing my mom does is she takes up and looks at the tag on the seatbelt. And she goes, "Yeah, I worked on this one."
Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's for my plant. I worked on it. Yeah, which didn't really think about it then. It was like, okay, thanks, Mom. But later on, it's like, got thinking about it. It's like, that's pretty cool. I'm driving around this car that my mom worked on.
What a rare thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was, and factories, they, for the most part, they don't start like build the whole car there. They have pieces come in, right? And so that factory my mom worked at, it was a seatbelt factory.
Yeah. Just a seatbelt factory?
Just seatbelts.
And so were a lot of the factories around car manufacturing at that area you were living in, or was it quite diverse?
It's a good question. Because now I'm thinking back like 40 years here.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I never really thought about that too much. I think maybe where we were I can't really say for certain, but I would say probably on the cusp of the car manufacturing, but most of it was like the Windsor, like the southwestern Ontario area up to Oshawa and stuff. Like there's not too far away, Honda opened an assembly plant there in Alliston. But I think that's like the cusp, like that's the outside of it. Because there was other factories in the area too for like electronics. Radio Shack had a factory, if not their Canadian headquarters, I think it was in Barrie, right? In Barrie, they had a lot of different types of factories in there too, manufacturing.
But either way, you knew that it was either stay on the farm or work in a factory, and the factory work was not appealing to you.
That's right. So it's kind of factory work not appealing to me. Army, yes. As a kid, I would see these army trucks going by all the time, right? Like I've later found out that was part of their driver training. Right? We were on the route. Anyways, I had a little bit of an army presence that way. We're not an army family, as in like my dad wasn't in the army and stuff. It's not like we have like multi-generational who served. I have some cousins that were in the military, and I have some cousins that joined after I did as well. Mm-hmm. But that's about the extent of it. Basically, I needed to get out of there. The military, like I had no money, right? We didn't have money for university. We were farmers, right? You don't make money farming. So I had no funds for university. I wanted to get out of there. Like you see these commercials on TV about, join the military. At the time, there's no life like it was their slogan. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I got looking into that, and I went to the recruiting center, and I was 17 at the time. And my older brother, I think he's about 8 years older than I am. He always, whenever him and Mom would get into a squabble, he'd say, "Well, I'm going to join the army." And my mom would say, "Well, get me the papers, I'll sign them." So I come home with the papers. Like my brother never produced them. Okay, just whatever. I was a kid. I don't remember the turnout, like what happened about that. But my brother, he never joined the army. He didn't. I had the papers with me one day. I don't remember what Mom was yelling at me about, but something. I said, I used that line. "Well, I'm going to join the army." She said, "Get me the papers, I'll sign them." I said, "Here."
Called your bluff there, Mom.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, this is for real. Oh, this is serious. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, actually it is." And I think what it is I don't remember. I don't think it was a serious fight. Like, I think it was just something like I was bringing up between us so that we could get into that little bit of a squabble, and I'd say that as a kind of like, here's what I want to do when I'm done in high school kind of thing. So yeah, I talked to my mom about that a few years later, and she told me that her and Dad had to talk about it. And she's like, "What's the army, and he could get killed." And my dad says, "Yeah, he's most likely to get killed on the farm than what he is in the army."
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Is dairy farming somewhat dangerous, or he was just saying like, no, he's the Canadian military. He's not necessarily going to have to put his life at stake? Maybe
a combination of both, because, there's always dangers on the farm. I had an aunt who died in a farming accident. There's accidents like we have neighbors that missing a hand.
Well, okay, what time period are we looking at here? Like when you're 17, what year is this roughly?
87.
And so what does dairy farming look like in terms of the operation behind the scenes during the 80s?
Well, looking back at that, I would have to say transition, really, because in that time, a lot of our neighbors, we had like small family type run type farms. And what I mean by small, like 150 acres of land. Maybe they're milking 40 cows, 20 to 40 cows, maybe. They're working the land themselves, self-sustaining, but you could tell, well, we could tell anyways, which were the farmers that were in debt, because they would borrow money on the value of their land and get new equipment. We didn't have new equipment, right? And it didn't take long for the farmers in that kind of a situation that next, no, they're selling. And then there was always like key farmers in the area who was buying up their land. And from what I understand from my dad at the time, the banks would recommend, you need a loan for this equipment? Well, then you need more land. And so I say a transition from the small family farm to the industrial farming that you see nowadays. Where I grew up, and eventually, after my dad passed away a few years after that, my mom sold the land. She sold the land to one of those farmers who was has a large spread of land everywhere, and just like industrialized farming. Gone are the days of like where you think of a family farm as being like you got a few cows, you got some chickens and some ducks. Well, that's we were the last of them. You might find the odd one now, but most of the farming now is large milking parlors where they're milking like a couple hundred cows a day kind of deal.
Right, machines are doing it.
Whereas, getting back on your question, what was farming like in the 80s? Well, at the time, my dad was he wasn't a very highly educated man. It's not like he had like a university degree in farming sciences. No, he barely had grade 8. But he was one of the smartest men that I knew. And at the time there too, he was like, all these chemicals people are putting on the property, like on their land and their fields. He goes, that's not right. That's not nature's way. That's not the way it's done. Like looking back, my dad would have been considered an organic farmer. Back then, he was just a farmer, right? It was a lot of work.
What did you have to do? What were some of the tasks?
Depends on the time of year. Spring break. Let's do spring break. Okay. Yeah. So every kid loves spring break. A week off from school, bang. Okay. Our spring break, we had to clean box stalls, right? Because the cows and cattle had been in the barn all winter. So not a fun job.
Yeah.
And one year, my dad, he says to us, he goes, okay, clean box stalls or need one to make maple syrup. I'll make syrup. I'll make syrup. And so, I went out to the woods. My spring break was actually spent, for the most part, in our woods making maple syrup.
Wow.
During spring break. Whereas my brothers would be cleaning box stalls. But that's like after the chores, right? Because it's chores morning and night, even on Christmas Day, right? Like a typical Christmas day in my childhood growing up, we'd wake up, go to the barn, milk the cows, come back, have breakfast, get dressed, wash up, get dressed, go to church.
Yeah.
Come back from church, open up Santa Claus gifts, right? And then that afternoon we'd be playing with them. And then, while mom is making Christmas dinner. And then we go to the barn, milk the cows, come back, wash up, have Christmas dinner, then open our gifts.
Okay. So at this point, you guys are hand milking the cows.
Yes, we are.
I'm going to take a quick side trip because you talked about maple syrup. I think I understand how maple syrup is made, but I don't know if most people do or if I fully understand. How do you make maple syrup?
Well, now I only did East. I didn't do West. I've never done West Coast maple syrup, so I understand it's a different process. But where I grew up and growing up making it, it's done in the springtime when the nights are cold, like below zero, like freezing, but thawing in the day. You need that contrast because you're tapping into the maple trees and you're grabbing sap out of them. So it has to thaw. It has to be melting. And so that's maple sap. Now syrup, but sap. You're getting that out of the tree. And you get like the best kind of sap if it freezes at night. It's the sugar yield and stuff. And the ratio on that is 40 gallons of sap makes a gallon of syrup. And it could pretty much would take me all day. By the time I got out to the woods, it was about a 20-minute walk from the house to where our woods were. Get the boilers, and it wasn't gas fire; it was wood fire. So always chopping wood throughout the whole day. Always chopping wood. So get that going. Get those things lit. It'd take me maybe about an hour just to get some heat going. So, and once you got the heat going, go around. You collect the sap. You put the sap in there, and then you're splitting wood, and you're monitoring. I use 2 boilers, a primary boiler and a secondary one. The primary one is the one that I would boil down. You have to boil it, a reduction. You have to reduce it to a certain point, and it has to have a certain amount of volume before syrup can be made. Before it actually makes syrup, because if you let it go down too far, reduce too much, you're not going to have enough volume for syrup. But you're going to get either going to be burnt or sugar. Right. But the secondary burner, I would keep a pot on there, keep the sap warm, not boiling, but warm. That way there, when I had to transfer sap into the main boiler, it wasn't starting off from cold. So it would speed up the process a bit. So I was doing that. So I was always adding sap. If I'm doing that, chopping, adding some sap, then chopping wood, adding sap, and
this is labor intensive.
But it was fun.
Yeah.
Labor intensive, but it was fun. Oh, yeah, we'd bring marshmallows and stuff. And, we were kids, right?
Well, how old are you when you were doing this?
About 10. Okay. Maybe from 10 till I was about 14 or 15.
All right.
Yeah.
And when you said that your dad tasked you with that or gave you the option, so were you doing most of the work yourself with the maple syrup?
Well, short answer, yes. Long answer, no. I remember, in my memories, I have a lot of memories being out there alone. But I also have times when they would come out as well, and we'd be all sitting there working, making this together. And it wasn't. We didn't just make syrup in that 1 week. My dad may have gone and set it up ahead of time, like a week ahead of time, and then would continue working out there the week after March break. I think he kind of looked forward to it because it would give him a break because, as you said, labor intensive, right? And also let him to do concentrate on something else that needed to be done in preparation for spring.
Was your family selling the maple syrup?
No, it was all personal.
Oh, this is all personal use.
It was all personal. Yeah, in a year, in a season, I would come back with about a couple gallons.
Okay.
At the end of the day. Yeah. A gallon, it's somewhere between a gallon or 2 in the end. And that's one day. And when you make the stuff, you use the stuff, right?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. And there nowadays, maple syrup, it's on our pancakes. That's enough, right? It's just a little pinch, right? Whereas when we're growing up, it's let's put this on, we're just soaking it, right?
We are rich in maple syrup.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you for explaining that. I did not fully understand the process. I'm sure there's a little bit more to it, but thank you for explaining that. And so I pulled this away from what it was like dealing with the dairy cattle. So you're hand milking the cows.
Yeah, we were hand milking up until 1985. Yeah, then we stopped shortly thereafter. We actually, my dad, I came home from school one day and my dad had sold all the cows. A little bit of a rewind on this. In the spring of 85, our barn had burnt down. And that was shortly, maybe about a month after a major tornado had gone through the area. So we couldn't find a contractor to build us a new barn because they were all busy rebuilding. A major tornado had gone through the city of Barrie. Yeah, and so everyone was all tied up, cleaning that up, fixing, rebuilding, etc. We couldn't find a contractor. So that fall, Dad was like, well, I got nowhere to put the cows. So we came up from school. The cows were all gone.
A tornado. So was that a pretty rare weather event? No.
There's a tornado season there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I was unaware.
Yeah. My brother lives in Guelph. One year he says to me not too long ago, he goes, so are you ready for the big earthquake? So I asked him, are you ready for the tornadoes? I go, okay, point taken. Right.
Somehow I did not know this. Yeah. There's a tornado season in Ontario.
That area, yeah.
Wow, okay. Interesting. Yeah. So the barn, unfortunately, was decimated by the tornado.
No, not by a tornado. No, it burnt down.
Oh, sorry.
It got hit by lightning and burnt down.
Okay.
Not too unusual for that to happen. They're big buildings, right? And they're grounded and stuff. It's just early one morning, hit by lightning, burnt down.
Okay. So you come home and the cows are all sold, and then what happened?
In order to like pay and get a contractor and stuff, Dad decided, well, I'm going to do cash crop for a year. We do the baling and all that stuff and then sell it. And Dad realized, he goes, I can make more money doing that, working a little bit, working like a month or so in the summer and then a month or so in the winter selling it, than working all year round milking cows. He goes, I'm making more money. I'm able to go traveling and stuff like that. And then eventually, this is after I left, because maybe a couple years after I left, Dad decided to just rent the fields out. He goes, I don't even have to do the work, getting income from the farm.
Yeah.
And then, so my parents bought an RV and started traveling around the continent.
Good
for them.
Yeah, totally. May I ask your parents' first names?
My mom's name's Jeanette. My dad's name was Henry.
Okay.
Well, Honoré, but everybody called him Henry.
You said that he was one of the smartest people you've ever met.
He had a philosopher's brain. And he didn't read up on philosophy. He wasn't like always reading from Descartes or Kierkegaard or something. No, I don't even know. I don't think he knew those names. It's just the way his thought process was. It was very philosophical. It was more like a philosophy of a way of living and an understanding of how nature works together. And how like there's no top of a pyramid type of thing. There's no, it's a circle, not a pyramid. Just that kind of thinking and understanding and belief, right? Where what we do affects more than what we see, kind of deal. Like I said, he barely had grade 8. I don't even know if he finished grade 8. And here he is. He's talking to us about organic farming as it in the future would be like he'd be like, case in point, there's this vermin called army worms. I think that's what they call them. Anyways, they would come in and destroy your grain crop, eat away your grain crop. But the thing is, my dad noticed this. They were only attacking the farms that were using chemical fertilizers and advancing in their growing season. Because, like, let's say the ones who were using the chemical fertilizers were harvesting in August, whereas we weren't. We were harvesting in September. Well, they would come in and destroy their crops, and then they'd be like march on to the next field and all that stuff, but leaving ours alone because it wasn't ready for that. So just things like that, like how nature, like the grain isn't supposed to be ready in August. It's supposed to be ready in September, October. That was his thinking. It's like, it's too early, but these armyworms are coming up and destroying their crop because it's advanced. He didn't really have the words to articulate it, but the thinking was there.
Right. So he's observing what's going on with other farms and recognizing it's not in congruence with how nature should be.
Yeah.
And then passing this information along to you, and you're taking this information in as a young guy.
Kids are sponges, right?
Yeah. How did your dad's way of being in the world inform you as you became older?
One of my very fond memories with my dad, and was the night before I left for basic training. He took me, he goes, I lost a bolt off the tractor in the back 40 acres. Can you help me look for it? Like a little bolt this size, right? But really, he was sitting there talking to me about life. He goes, you're leaving the farm, you're leaving for the army tomorrow. That's something I don't know anything about. All right. I was never a soldier, but you're leaving the farm. And our pause there. Prior to my dad owning a farm and stuff, and he was raised on a farm as well, he lived for about 10 years in Galt, which is now part of Waterloo, and he had worked his way up in a textile mill to a foreman position. That's where he was when he left. So he has some 10 years off the farm. So okay, going back to the night before basic, he gave me a talk about like the realities of the real world as opposed to like farming. And the farming community, and how keep your guard up kind of thing, but still one of the things that he taught me was people in general are nice. Like in general, people aren't bad, but some people do bad things. That's one of the things that he taught me, and I still carry to this day. And that I remember him talking to me about that the night before we left for basic. Like, good excuse for him to get me to go out for a walk with him in the field, right? Got to look for a bolt.
Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't much looking. It was a lot of listening on my part and talking on his part.
That sounds pretty great.
It's one of my fondest memories of him.
Oh man, that's touching. I have shivers when you're telling that story, man. Getting back to you joining the military, how did basic training look when you first showed up, and so what were your impressions of basic training and everything?
So we've all seen like army movies and stuff, right? So you have like a little bit of thought. A few days before I actually left, there was a family wedding, and at the family wedding was a distant cousin who I think he had been in the military about 15, 20 years by this point. So I went up, I introduced myself to him and all that stuff. He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember you and you're like, diaper size kind of thing, right?" And I told him I was leaving. And he told me, he goes, "You're going to find basic training hard. It's supposed to be. But when you're done, you're going to remember the good times." And he's so right. My first impressions going in, I went in blindly, didn't know what to expect, really. Just stuff from the movies. I took it one day at a time and just tried to get the most out of it. There's some things I struggled with. Everybody had something that they struggled with. But what you do is you find out, like, let's say I'm struggling with shining my boots. Let's say I'm really lousy at shining my boots. But the guy in the bunk beside me, he's really good at shining boots. I'm really good at ironing shirts, but he's not good. So guess what? He's shining my boots. I'm ironing his shirts. You just learn that. It's teamwork, right?
Do they encourage that?
Oh, very much so.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
One of the things in basic is they want you working as a team. There's no individuals. It's all teamwork. And if your platoon isn't coming together as a team, then we were punished. But and in the end, my cousin was right. You remember the good times, you forget about the bad times. Yeah, I'm still in touch with some of the people I went through basic with. Because it's a camaraderie, and that was like 34 years.
So you get out of basic training, and then what happens?
Oh, military school.
Military school.
Kingston, here we go.
Okay.
Well, first they sent me to language school. And that was a bit of a joke. You see, where I grew up in Ontario there was a French society, a Francophone society. I was part of it. I did all my elementary school and high school all in French. The only thing taught in English was English. Right? Everything was in French. We had, at the time anyways, they weren't necessarily teachers. I'm trying to translate the word from French into English, but they were like language monitors. They were adults. They weren't students. They were adults who would, at lunchtime, recess time, whatever, be in the schoolyard, making sure that we're still speaking French.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if we were caught, especially older, like in high school, whatever, if we were in the hallways at lunchtime or between classes and we were caught speaking English, we got detention.
Wow. And what was the reason for this?
Like I said, we're like a little fringe society. There's a large Francophone population in Ontario, right? Ottawa area, etc. Northern Ontario. Where we were, it was fringe. In the late 70s, I think it was 1979, there was a rebellion that happened where a group of kids, high school kids, got together. I'm trying to remember here because I was very young. I was like maybe grade 3, grade 4 when this was happening. But there was a resistance. They'd asked for a French language school because we were coming out of our French elementary schools and there was English schools. So automatically we're at a disadvantage because like we know all our math terms, science terms, all in French, right? And then we go to the English, so to an English school. So a little bit of disadvantage right there. You adapt. But then also too, if you wanted to continue, because French is an official language in Canada. So if we wanted to continue, we couldn't. And so a lot of some of the parents, etc., petitioned the provincial government at the time for a French high school in the area, and they said no. Kept on saying no, no. So finally, a group of students got together and made their own. It was they called it at the time l'École de la Résistance, resistant high school or something like that. And fast forward, I actually met on Pender, of all places, one of the students from that movement. I met her last spring. I was blown away. It's like, wow, you were part of this movement. What are you doing here? Kind of thing, right? She was here visiting for a few weeks. Anyways, but she was telling me that it was very political and not much schoolwork got done. So all this to say, I did all my education in French, and then I did my basic training in French. A little bit of a story about that at the recruiting center, how that happened. And so I did my basic training in French. And after basic training, like all the French people, for the most part, went on to learn English.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I went to language school to learn English. And I was only there a month. Yeah, because they did aptitude tests. Actually, I say a month, not even a month. At the beginning, they do aptitude tests for placements, right? And I bypassed everything. And then so after basic training, went to Kingston to the military school. I was in the Signals Corps, and that's where our school is in Kingston, Ontario. That's a home garrison for the Signals Corps.
Home of Tragically Hip, home of Don Cherry. Good old Kingston, Ontario.
Okay, funny you should say that, because when I was there,
yeah,
that's when the Tragically Hip were just getting big.
Oh my gosh, I want to hear this.
I only have really one Tragically Hip story to tell you.
Okay.
There was a band I wanted to see that was playing at one of the local bars. I think it was called AJ Hanger or something like that in Kingston. And the band was called Crash Vegas.
Oh, yeah. I remember them.
Oh, you remember Crash Vegas? Okay.
Totally,
yeah. So I'm like, hey, Crash Vegas, come. I like them. So I'm there, and none of my classmates or anything like that wanted to go. So I was there alone. And so I started partying with some of the students from Queens, right? The people my age and stuff. And all of a sudden we can hear this commotion in the back, like, what's going on kind of thing. And I'm like, do you know what's going on? And I don't remember the person's name, but she says to me, she goes, oh, she looks over and goes, oh, the Tragically Hip just walked in. I said, oh, are they playing here tonight? She goes, oh, no, they're probably just here to watch me, come here to watch the band. They're people too, kind of thing. And I'm like, that's my Tragically Hip story.
Okay.
I saw Crash Vegas at, I want to say it was AJ Hanger or something like that in downtown Kingston. And the Tragically Hip were like hanging out, watching the band, just a few people over from me.
I just finished watching the documentary, 5-part or something on Prime. It is so good.
Well, I haven't seen it yet.
I highly recommend it. It's really amazing, actually.
I did watch the last concert live stream.
Yeah.
A few years back.
Yeah. I mean, they said some crazy amount of Canadians tuned into that, like 60, 70%. Really? It was amazing, the number that they listed. But yeah, that was a historical moment for our generation, definitely. Okay, so military school, Kingston. What's going on in military school? What's happening?
Well, I was a signals operator. I first started off in radio, oddly enough. That was one of the things that attracted me to the Signals Corps. I wanted to be able to work. I told them at the recruiting center I wanted to work in radio, but they don't have radio like, Good Morning Vietnam. They don't have that in Canada. They don't have like an armed force. But I didn't know that. So they're like, oh, radio operator, right? I first started working in radio. In the war movies, you see the Vietnam War or something. The guy with the radio in the back.
Of course,
that was me.
Love that guy. Communications guy.
Yeah. Bravo 1, Bravo 6. Check your fire. Things like that. Yeah. So I did that for a little while. And I transitioned. I did some what they call radio relay, whereas you put a van, like a radio van, between two points that need to communicate but are too far apart.
Oh.
So they relay. It's just really did that for a few exercises and such. Then I transitioned to teletype communication. It's what it sounds like. It's archaic now. It's totally replaced by email. But I did teletype for 3-4 years, something like that. One of the jobs I did in teletype. Are you familiar with the Diefenbunkers?
I don't think I am. I think you mentioned this when we got together, but I forget what it
Okay.
is.
Diefenbunkers, it was a series of bunkers that almost every province had one. It was also known as a regional emergency government headquarters, right? In the event of like a nuclear war or something. This is totally a Cold War thing. In the event of a nuclear war, that's where the government would go. There was 2 of them in Ontario. There was one at CFB Borden and another one in just outside of Ottawa. That one's a museum now. It's a place called Carp. It's just outside of its museum. So you can walk in there and see what I did for a living, right? But I was actually stationed in the one in Borden for a while, for about a year. One of the things I did was I was the communication center operator for the provincial warning center, and in the regional emergency headquarters, which was in the Diefenbunker. So we had daily nuclear exercises, kind of thing. What I mean by that is I would get like a signal coming in of a Latin long, and I'd yell that out. And so a sergeant and a major, they'd go up to this map and start drawing on this map, and then I'd get a confirmation coming in, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, and we got another sighting, and give them a Latin long of this, and they're doing that, and they're doing all these drawing on a map, and they're giving me numbers and places and stuff to type in, and then we were timed. The better the time, the higher your scoring was, and so it was like every province. Every province was involved in this exercise. And so at the end, we would get our results of who was the fastest, who was the most precise, blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't the same numbers every day kind of thing, because everything was all calculated with real wind patterns.
Okay.
That was a report that I would have to pick up earlier that morning. Things like that. We did that like daily down there in the bunker. There was other things going on there as well. I don't want you to think that that's all that was going on in the bunker. No, that would be like less than 5% of what was going on in the bunker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you liking this at the time? At the time, where you're like,
Loved it.
You loved it.
Absolutely loved it.
What did you love about it?
Everything. It was a whole new life for me. Going back to the basic training thing, I recently spent a lot of time with someone who was raised on a farm as well, similar kind of environment, farming type of environment. And then joined the military. And I said to them, when you're in basic training, on the first day, when they said, lights out at 11, and then lights back on at 5, no exception. You're in bed asleep at 11, and you're waking up at 5, no exception. And you go, oh my goodness, we're going to bed early and sleeping in. And they're like, yeah, totally.
Wow, eh?
Yeah. Now, there was aspects of the basic training that was different, harder than farming, using different types of muscles or whatever, physical. And then there's also the mental side of it. But other than that, basic training was kind of a break from farming.
Really?
Yeah. Farming's it was very physically intensive.
Well, how much are you sleeping when you're on the farm working?
It depends on the season. Summer, not much. Yeah, summer, not much. Bringing in the hay, fixing things up, like in between hay crops and that's when you're at your maximum milk production as well, right? So you're milking all the cows, and so yeah, it's not much sleep.
Okay, so you're in the military and you feel like you're getting more of an adequate amount of sleep in basic training, and then moving forward as well too, right?
I wouldn't say more than adequate enough.
Sorry, I mean like you were getting like more sleep than you were like a better night's sleep,
more intense sleep. Right? If memory serves, more intense. Remember that. But I also know that like one of my memories from the military is longevity. Like let's say if we're going out on an all-night patrol, because of farming, you learn early not to use up all your energy all at once to like pace yourself and stuff. Just those kind of things kicked in at the time. So a different sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you said you're loving it. The work that you're doing, you're really loving.
Well, especially when I got down to we would call it garrison work kind of thing. See, the occupation I did, we were always operational. What I mean by that is, if you think like the military going out on exercises, well, that's not operational. They're going out, they're practicing kind of, and I'm using layman term on this. They're practicing maneuvers. They're learning things and all that stuff, right? Enhancing their skills, etc. Whereas in a communication center on a military base, there's traffic, the message traffic coming in and such. That's real time. It's not necessarily operational. Like I say that. If we go back a little bit here to my story from the nuclear exercises, those were exercises. That wasn't operation. That was a daily exercise. Whereas opposed to like operational traffic would be like weather forecasts. One of the things that we used to do when I was stationed in Comox, we used to there was a weather station there, and we used to broadcast out to the ships of all things. You think they'd be in a Esquimalt, but it was all coming out of Comox. I don't know about now. Like this is like 30 plus years. Well, about 30 years ago. Yeah. So the weather forecast, a couple times a shift, right? 3, 4, maybe 5 times a day, different weather patterns. That's an example of like operational type traffic.
But they're keeping you busy during the day. There's like things to do all day generally, or is there a lot of downtime?
In the military?
Yeah.
Like in general?
Well, I guess for yourself and for the period of time that you were.
Well, military school is different than what I would say in garrison or at your unit.
Yeah, I mean, kind of in garrison.
You got time to lean, you got time to clean.
So they want you to keep busy.
Oh yeah.
All right. yeah. But you mentioned about the West Coast, and eventually you did transition from the East Coast to the West Coast. How did that happen?
I got transferred here. I got transferred to the West Coast. Transfers came in. They said, Mark, we got a really good place for you. I'm like, oh, where am I going? They said, Comox. And I said, where's that?
Where is that?
I said, because prior to that, you put in your choices. Like you put in your 3 choices, right? My 3 choices at the time was Esquimalt, Chilliwack, or Belgium.
Why those 3?
Furthest away from family.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So you didn't get your choice of the 3, no. But they gave you Comox, which is pretty close to Chilliwack and Esquimalt.
Well, they're like, well, we can't really put you to Esquimalt. I think I would have enjoyed Chilliwack as well. There used to be a military base in Chilliwack, an army base.
Okay.
Right. And, but yeah, they're like, well, there's a position open in Comox. You're going to love it. And I'm like, I don't even know where that is. He said, well, position, we're giving it to you. And they told me, and I didn't even know where Comox was. They said, this is one of the most sought out positions in the military, like bases. Apparently Comox is like the dream base for a lot of people to go to.
Why?
Well, I found that out later because there's some truth to that. It's the lifestyle there. It's, you can wake up in the morning, head up to Mount Washington and go skiing for the morning, come back down, get a game of golf in the afternoon. Or get up in the morning, hop in a kayak, go kayaking around, and then go skiing or horseshoeing or mountain biking. Like there's just a lot of activity, various activity, right? It's not like, and the seasons blend, right? I used to be on a mountain biking team.
So downhill mountain biking?
No, not downhill.
Okay.
No, I was doing single track cross country.
Fun.
Yeah. We had a person in that club who went to the Olympics in, I think it was Athens.
Okay, when it's cross country, are there any drops or just sort of?
Like, there's drops. There's drops. There's logs to climb over and stuff. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we had a standard. Trying to remember, it was a series of trails that we would take Sunday mornings, and at one point the club said, "Okay, can you take these people out and show them, like be their guide through it?" I want to say it was called Bevan Bearbait Nymph Falls. I think that's what it was. It starts off light and it's heavy, and it's heavy, like tree branches, like trunks to go over and obstacles and stuff. Like the Nymph Falls Trail was pretty intense for cross country.
Okay.
For single track cross country, yeah.
Nymph Falls is a beautiful place. If people listening have not been there, gotta go. It's really sweet.
Oh, absolutely. So you've been there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Comox Valley is so beautiful. It's great.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Yeah. And I was living in Cumberland at one point when I think his name was Matt. He started he started a bike shop up there, Dodge City Cycles. And they were putting in trails. They started putting in trails back there, which is now become the Cumberland mountain biking trails, which is fantastic. Now I'm talking like this is late 90s, 97, 98, something like that.
How long into your military career, at what point did you transfer?
I was 5 years in.
And so you had 4 years of being in the military in Comox.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, not exactly to the day, but yeah.
You joined this mountain biking team. Were there any other things that you were part of that like really resonated with you? Did you like the transfer? Did it work for you?
Yes, very much so. I tend to say I was raised in Ontario, but grew up in Comox. I did a lot of growing there, a lot of growth, a lot of personal growth and such. Yeah, very much as I consider Pender Island home, I still consider the Comox Valley home as well. Whenever I go up there, when we get off on the turnoff to head into Courtenay, it's like, that feeling I'm coming home. It's like that. I've stayed in touch with a lot of friends up there that I've had or people I've worked with. Yeah, and Andrea, of course, she's from there. Her grandparents live near the air base, near CFB Comox or 19 Wing Comox. Yeah, we're actually leaving there to go there tomorrow. So yeah, it just has that home feeling, just like the feeling when you get off the ferry.
Mm-hmm.
You get off the ferry, you're on Pender. It's like, I'm on Pender, man. It is now Pender time. It's that kind of feeling.
Having never lived in that area, I always find it so welcoming. I feel like when I take the turn off to Courtenay or going the other way, going to Cumberland, I feel so comfortable. Like I think it's just a great part of the island.
Yeah, there's something about the valley. I can't really put my finger on it. It was when we left and moved to Pender, it was a tough decision, but it was the right decision. There's been the valley changed very rapidly in the 2000s, in the aughts. The Comox Valley changed very rapidly, not just like physically, like with like urban sprawl, but also a mindset, and also more importantly, the cost of living there. It was out of reach. Very much getting out of reach at the time for people who lived there.
What made you decide to leave the military after 9 years?
I no longer identified with it. Yeah. When I first joined the military, I wanted to do the whole 9 yards. I wanted to retire as a chief warrant officer. That's the highest enlisted rank there is. I wanted to retire as chief warrant officer. I remember telling my dad, look, I can retire in 20 years. I retired at 37. Right. And I can do something else. Right. That was always my goal. And going back to a comment I made a moment ago, like I was raised in Ontario, but I grew up in Comox. I did a lot of growing there and stuff. And it got to a point in the military, I no longer identified with being a soldier and in life. And I wanted to go back to school, learn something different, and continue growing that way.
It's a big decision. It's a big decision to go from having this goal of, this is going to be my life for 20 years. And then, halfway through to pull the plug on that and be like, I'm going to change. Was it an easy choice for you or was it a hard choice?
I'm going to have to say that it wasn't really a choice. It's not like I woke up one morning going, okay, pros and cons list. No, it was like, I'm putting on my uniform and I no longer identify with it. Like, it's like, this is not me. This is not who I am anymore. This is like, I go to work and I hear like the people talking and I no longer identify with what they're talking about. Right. And so it came down to a question of that, really, that I no longer identified with being in the military. And so why would I stay?
No, that's interesting. Sounds like it was clear cut.
It was pretty clear cut, yeah. But it's not like it was like one morning I said, okay, I'm leaving. Here's my papers.
Mm-hmm.
No, see, at the time we were working on contracts. And I was maybe about 3/4 of the way through my second contract. And my next contract was going to be what we called the big one. That would take you because your first contract, it can be thought of, you're learning is your first contract. Your second contract is you're proving yourself. Your third contract is I've proved myself. Here's my career, right? So I was approaching that big one. And I'm like, I don't identify with this. And that being said, I have to understand as well, we were evaluated every year. So we knew where we stood. We knew if we were doing good. They would tell us. I was a good soldier. Okay, I was good. I'd gotten what we called outstanding reviews 3 years in a row, and that pretty much equals a promotion. The career manager, at one point, they at one point in the year, they go out and see all the people under that in their charge. Their job is exactly that. They manage careers. All right. He meets with me and he goes, I like what I'm seeing here. He goes, I'm reading this and I like what I'm seeing. He goes, you got 3 outstandings. We want to give you an accelerated promotion to your next rank. We're going to send you on a combat leaders course and we're going to send you to here. And I said, thank you, but no thanks. This is not the career that the life path that I want to go on and stuff. And through discussion, talking and all that stuff, one of the things he said was, we got a 30-day release program. If you're not liking the military, you can get out like in a month. And I said, as tempting that it is, sir, that's not something I'm going to do because I signed a contract up to such a date. A contract is a person's word. The person's only as good as their word. I gave the word to the people of Canada that I will serve up to them. I'll serve up to them the best I can. Yeah.
How much more time was that?
That was about a year and a half.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
so you were given the option to leave after 30 days, but you're like, I've signed this contract. So you knew it was going to be a year and a half at that point.
Yeah. Even though I was no longer identifying, I had a hard time personally identifying with it. Yeah. It was about a year and a half, maybe a year.
You're thinking about your options at this point. So at this point, what are you thinking? You're like, okay, what am I going to do next year?
Well, I'd always planned to go back to school. And so the colonel, he's like, he goes, well, we need more people like you. Like this is in the 90s during the force reductions. We call it FRP. They were bringing down the size of the Canadian military. It's just after the Cold War. There was that and budget cuts and stuff. Our pay had been frozen for, I think at this point, maybe 3 years. There was like no pay increases or anything. And through the force reduction program, the colonel was telling me this. He goes, we're losing the good people. The good people are taking these reduction plans and leaving, or they're doing like you. They're not signing up. They're not continuing. It's like, yeah, sure, we have to reduce our numbers. We're told that we need to reduce our numbers, but it's the good people that are leaving. Yeah. No offense to the people who stayed. All right. I've worked, everyone I worked with, I've been, I think of them a lot. Yeah. People I served with.
Yeah.
I think of them a lot. They're great, outstanding people. Everyone I worked with, they're the kind of people that they would literally give you the shirt off their back if you're cold. And I'm still in touch with a lot of people I served with. A lot of people, a few of them come to mind, did multiple tours in Afghanistan. I know I would have. I don't know about multiple. It depends where I would have been working. But I know I would have gone to Afghanistan had I stayed in. It's just a certainty because looking at the people that I served with, and they all went. Mm-hmm. So I know I would have gone as well. Yeah. So don't get me wrong. The people I worked with, they're great. Think about them all the time.
This brings us back to where we started, pretty much, where you are applying at the radio station once you've left the military and you're going to school. What are you going to school for at this point?
At this point?
Yeah.
Geography.
Okay.
I originally went back to school to study geography. More precisely, weather. I want to be. I've always been good at reading, going outside and reading the weather, and that was one of the subjects that I enjoyed in school was geography. I don't mean like capital cities and stuff. I mean like the formation of sedimentary rock. Or you're looking at a topography and going, okay, this is how this is formed. The glaciers moved this, et cetera, et cetera. I've always enjoyed that kind of stuff. So I originally went back to get a degree in geography. I ended with a degree in psychology.
Awesome.
I said this to my niece. She just graduated UVic earlier this year. And she originally went into theater, and she graduated with a degree in communications. And I'm like, yeah, I can't really think of too many people who've actually graduated with the degree that they went in to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like a pretty good thing though, right? Because as you were saying, like we grow up at points in our lives, right? So going to university, you think you have an idea of what you want, and then you start learning about the world and yourself, and you're changing, and then hopefully you do sort of change about what your priorities or interests are.
That's a good point. Yeah, very much so.
You get a degree in psychology.
Yeah.
Okay. How was that?
It was that. It was that. I did crisis counseling work for a number of years. I think it was 5 years. 5 years altogether, whether it be on phone lines, crisis lines. I also did some drop-ins. People would drop into the center. One story I tell, there was a Christmas time. Crisis lines are pretty busy at Christmas in the Christmas season and stuff. The center was looking for, they couldn't fill the 10 till 2. We worked in 4-hour shifts. Couldn't fill the 10 till 2 and the 2 till 6 shift. So I was like, yeah, I'll take it. I said, oh, which one? I said, I'll take them both. And they're like, really? I said, yeah, I'll come down to the center here and just man the phones. The door wasn't open. I just man the phones on that day. Yeah, why not? I'll bring some movies with me, some junk food. I didn't have family or anything like that. And I didn't have any money to go to Ontario to be with them at the time. So yeah, why not? And yeah, that's one of my favorite Christmas stories to tell. So I went down there. I didn't even get one phone call throughout that whole day. Yeah, not one phone call. I watched a couple of movies, ate some junk food, walked back home.
5 years of working on a crisis counseling line.
Mm-hmm.
What stands out to you from those experiences?
Some of the training I went through, we did a lot of role playing, right? So that's always fun. Doing the role playing there. One of the certificates I got from them was suicide intervention, and this is all experience that I've kept with me and use almost on a daily basis with my job with the RCMP.
Really?
Oh yeah, crisis intervention. Oh yeah.
Okay, but like on a daily basis?
Oh, almost. I'd say almost. Not so much here, but in Comox, when I was working at the police station in Comox, mostly when I started as a dispatcher. In that environment, yes. Records management and watch clerking, not so much.
Let's hope not.
But here, especially over the phone, like people calling in, and I know we're kind of like jumping ahead. When people are contacting the police, chances are they're not having a good day. That's one of the things I have to keep, not have to. That's one of the things I keep in mind. And so, and I use a lot of the skills that I learned during, not just from like psych degree, from college, but also from my experience and training in the crisis center as well. And I apply it almost daily, if not once or twice a week. It depends on the phone calls and time of year and stuff.
Yeah, let's jump into that. So you begin working for the RCMP in Comox.
Yes, I did. At the time I was working at, it was an office at an agency called the Job Shop. Self-explanatory. It's kind of a nickname. It wasn't the official name. That's my understanding, but that's what people called the Job Shop. Center adapted that name, etc. I was working there. One of my many jobs I did there was I was asked if I could issue typing tests. Because applying for work, some jobs require a typing test, like 40, 50, 60 words a minute and all that stuff. I was getting all these people who are about my age, a little bit younger, a little bit old, coming in for a typing test all at once. All these people coming in. So I asked one, I said, what are you applying for? And he said, oh, the RCMP is hiring dispatchers right now. We're pretty much all applying for that. And I was like, I was a communications operator in the military. It was okay. So I applied. I went and applied. I want to say I applied in March and I started in June, July, something like that. Only a few months later. Yeah, I wasn't a dispatcher for long. A few months, 3 months, I think. And then I asked if there was anything downstairs. What I mean by downstairs, the dispatch center was upstairs, the detachment, and downstairs is like records and management and stuff. And and then they're like, yeah, okay, we'll go have a look and go talk to them. And then I moved from dispatch down to the records room. And then from the records room, I went to an actual police watch.
An actual police watch?
Yeah, watch. That's like shift.
Okay.
An actual shift. I I was on the shift, like on a shift with the rest of the police officers.
So how are you feeling about this career transition at this point in your life?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was something new and exciting. And it brought me back to one of the things I dearly missed from the military, camaraderie. We're all working in the same type of job. Like, even though I was doing something like the police officers, they're doing the police work, but I'm doing like the clerical work for them. And, but that camaraderie is still there. Still to this day, it's like that. Yeah. It's one of the things I dearly missed from the military was camaraderie.
I think you mentioned the camaraderie at the radio station as well too, and so seems as if this is a pretty important part of life to you, is having connection and camaraderie with people in the workplace.
Very good observation. I hadn't really thought about it until now, because I think you're bang on. Like my recent experience touring with Sarah Smith in Europe. That's one of my very fondest. I have so many fond memories from that tour. One of the fondest was just the camaraderie between us with the band.
Let's just jump into that, because it's a great story. So you just recently got back from Europe, and you were traveling with local musician Sarah Smith. And from what you told me, it was your first trip to Europe. And you got to be part of the experience. Just want to explain to people how that went a little bit.
In a nutshell, I was doing roadie work, like helping them set up the stage, and then afterwards helping them tear down the stage. And then during the performance, I was selling merchandise. Yeah, and I actually had the privilege and the pleasure and privilege of actually playing a few songs with them, which was a fantastic experience. I was also introducing, not in all the events, into the tour. I noticed like some of the events, the band would just go up and start playing, which, that's fine. So I asked them, I said, would you guys like an introduction? Like, if there's no MC, would you like have some kind of introduction? And Sarah was like, oh yeah, that'd be great. But something quick, like not long-winded. So, oh, no worries. No worries there. Right. So the first time it was like, I think I mentioned it maybe about 10 minutes before a show, and I did it in English, not in German. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you all the way from Canada, the Sarah Smith Band. Woo! Right, kind of thing. Right. So did that a few times where there was no MC. If someone's introduced them, that's great. That's great. But if not, well, I'll do a quick introduction. It was out of this world for me, the experience. Right from day one. The band, I love them. They are such lovely people. And I still miss them. We've all kept in touch a little bit, hey, how's it going? Or I'll send a photo, or they'll send a photo. And what I mean by that, when we were there, we made a cell phone group, like for texting. So it was basically to say, okay, we need to be here at such time and all stuff. So the message went out once to everybody. We've kept that group. That group
great.
So yeah.
Nice. How long were you there for?
I want to say 36 days.
All right. Okay.
It was a couple days shy of 5 weeks. And
it was primarily in Germany?
Mostly.
Okay.
We left Vancouver on September 11th. I want to say it was around 6:00. I know we arrived in Amsterdam at 12:30 the next day. It's just times different. It was about a 9.5 hour flight, but with the time zone difference. So we arrived at 12:30 the next day, 12:30 in the afternoon, and hit the ground running. We got there, we got our stuff. Sarah had hired a person to come pick us up at the airport with our gear and everything, and then brought us over to where we got our rental van, which was kind of like a small tour bus / cargo van. The cargo partition in the back was separate. So that's where all our instruments and equipment went. And then there was like 3 rows of seats in the front, all bucket seats. Like very comfortable, actually. Very comfortable van. So we got that. We got our rental equipment. Most of the equipment, most of it was rented. Like the drum kit was rented, the sound system, everything. I think the only thing people brought with them was, if they wanted to, was their own instruments. And then, we hit the ground running. Yeah, by 6:00 that night, we were in a town called Almelo. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Turns out a friend of mine on Pender was actually born in that town.
Oh, no way. Wow.
Yeah. So a little connection there. And the next day we had rented some rehearsal space to get the equipment up and running, see if there's anything wrong with it, so we can deal with it before the first gig. And that night was the first gig of the tour.
And then five weeks or so
Yeah.
traveling around Europe. And
we did about a week in the Netherlands at first. It was about a week. And then we left the Netherlands and spent the rest of the time in Germany with 2 different dates. I think it was 2 different dates back in Holland. Like our last one was in Holland, but just outside of the German and Belgian border, actually, a little town called Vals, Vaals. It was about 4 hours outside of Amsterdam. And we actually came back from Germany about halfway through the tour to play in a town called Emmen in the Netherlands. But that was only like we would dip in twice. But the rest of the dates were all in Germany, all over the place.
Cool.
Like all these small towns, not just small towns. Like we played in Hamburg, Berlin. Would have been nice if we played in Munich during Oktoberfest.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Just for the experience. but we were Oktoberfest weekend. We were in a town called Wetter, or as would be pronounced here, Wetter. It's Wetter. But Germany it's pronounced Wetter. Yeah, which was great. I had some friends from Belgium come to that concert.
Oh, good. Right on.
Yeah, it was really nice to see them. Their 2 little kids, and yeah, it was a very special concert.
Nice. We're going to start winding it down, and before we do, we got to get to finding out how you got to Pender Island.
I got to Pender Island?
Yeah. So, like, we left off with you working for the RCMP in Comox, and then how did that move to Pender happen?
Well, it was the RCMP. It was totally the RCMP. I was in a position up in Comox. It was like military time, civilian time, like military time, school time, working, all stuff. We also felt it was the Comox Valley was changing to a point where we felt like we wanted to live somewhere like Pender, like somewhere small. I know Andrea was wanting to live somewhere in a small community that she can contribute largely to and be a big part of, a part of the community. That wasn't happening in Courtenay. I started seeing openings in various small places. There was 3 that I applied for here, Pender Island, Tofino, and it's a small place in the interior, just outside of Armstrong. My district manager, she calls me up and she's like, "Mark, what's going on here? I'm seeing you putting in your name for all these small posts. What's going on?" I said, I think I want to work somewhere small. Either I work like alone or maybe with another public service employee and grow in my career this way instead of working like in Courtenay there was you do one job. Like you're not like a jack of all trades. I said, I want to work in a more growing, like a more skill, where you require the knowledge, skills, and abilities for all the jobs, all the support positions, what have you, in the detachment. And she's like, "Okay, that sounds great." She goes, "I can offer you Pender. You can start right away. Tofino, I have another person, so we'll see." And I said, "Well, I've been to Tofino loads. I've never been to Pender, so I want to have like a weekend, come down to Pender, check it out, see if this is where we want to live." I think Andrea and I, we didn't even make it to True Value off the ferry on our visit, and we're like, "Yeah, we like this place."
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, we like this place. We spent the morning. Our first stop was True Value. I have some dietary restrictions, and so I wanted to see if I could get groceries here, and we could. So between True Value and Southridge, it was a no-brainer. And then we spent the rest of the weekend looking at real estate, and didn't buy anything. Didn't find anything that weekend. But when we got back, I said to district, I gave them a call. District headquarters, I gave them a call, and I said, "Yeah, between Tofino and Pender, talking it over with Andrew and all that stuff, we would like Pender." And she goes, "When can you start?" Right? And I said 6 weeks, and he said, "Okay, that's fair." So 6 weeks later, that was in the beginning of May when we came here. In the middle of June, we moved here. Well, I say we. Andrea stayed in Courtenay for for the summer anyways. One of the houses, the RCMP houses here, has a cabin in it. So I was living in that cabin while I was looking for a place to live. Then I found our house. This is a risky move. I bought it and everything without Andrea looking at it.
Oh my gosh! Wow! All right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had Andrea said, I would like to have a house that's like this, and this. And the house that we bought, check, check, check. Andrea came here for the August long weekend. I hadn't taken possession of the house yet. Then the former owners were still there. But they heard that Andrea hadn't seen it before. So they reached out to me. They said, you want to bring Andrea around so she can have a look? I said, yeah, but what's it going to do? It's like, it's a done deal. Right. So yeah, we went and had a look. And afterwards, Andrea's like, yeah, good choice. She wanted somewhere, or we both wanted somewhere that we could walk to work if we wanted to, and somewhere that we could walk to the stores if we needed to, or would like to. And that's what we found.
How many years ago was this?
2009. Yeah, I came to Pender on June 15th, 2009. And then Andrea stayed for a part of the winter. But see, before coming here, Andrea was, I say anyway, she was an outdoor activity coordinator kind of thing, like worked in the camps and stuff. And when I asked her, I got on the phone one day, said, hey, how would you feel about living on Pender or something? She goes, yeah, sure. It doesn't matter where I live because I usually go away for work. Okay. So just after she got here, a few months after she got here, she got a job at out at a camp in Mission. And she was there for like almost 10 months. Almost 10 months, and the camp closed, or I don't know the whole story there. But she came back. And she stayed the winter, and then she said, I want to stay on Pender now. So she started working outside of her area. Like there now, she's at the community. She's been managing the community hall now for a very long time. But I think her first job here was at the gas station. Or it could have been at the bank, one of the two, when we had a bank here. Fast forward a few years, like about 2013, 2014, something like that, maybe about 10 years back. I knew the manager position in Souk was going to be opening up because the manager there moved on to district and it was vacant. So as soon as that was posted, I said to Andrea, hey, the job in Souk is open. And Andrea goes, are you going to apply? I said, yeah, I'm going to apply. It's a great job and great step up the ladder. She goes, oh, good. Souk, that's not too far. You can come visit me on weekends.
Not moving, not leaving.
So I didn't apply. And it turns out a friend of mine in the RCP got the position there. And I was telling her that story. And she's like, oh, my goodness, I'm so glad you didn't apply because I know I wouldn't get the job over you.
Oh, man.
But I'm very happy for her. And that person who got the job, and the one I didn't apply for, she's still there in Souk. So, yeah. So that's one of my favorite stories to tell that, great, you can come visit me on weekends.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. It makes it very clear for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've tackled the military, being part of the RCMP, dairy farming, going on tour, like with a band in Europe, working at a radio station. Awesome. This is really, really cool. Seriously. Thank you, Mark. I always give the guest a last chance if there's anything else that they want to add. Is there any last words that you have to finish this thing off? Anything you want people to know that you haven't mentioned yet?
There's so many things. I don't know where to start because like all that, and I write stories. Like I write short stories. I'm maybe about 2 chapters away from finishing a novel. I haven't worked on it in a while though. I'm like that. I'll work on it intensely for like 4 or 5 months, and then I put the project aside for like a year. Right, and I got 2 writing projects on the go. One is a novel. And I'm also working on a series of short stories. My plan is to have 9 stories in this book. I have 7 written. I still have to write 2 more. And it'll be done in time. I just need more experience to put in it because you write what you know, right? So I just need a little bit more experience to, and it's going to be finished when it's finished. Right? I don't want to push it. So there's that, like there's so many different sides to a coin.
Yeah, totally, man. It's really cool. Like, this is so neat for me to get to do this because most of the time when we have conversations with people, like, we don't really get to know very much about them. And so before doing this interview, and like we had a pre-interview 6 weeks ago or so, like I've learned so much more about you, and it's so cool. So thanks for being open, for sharing and talking about your life. And I'm sure people are going to be listening to this and being pretty surprised and wowed. So thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Thank you so much to Marc for doing that interview. That was really great. I really enjoyed doing that. We had a really nice time together that day, and that was really rewarding. So thank you for sticking around and listening to the end of the podcast. If you got to the end of this one and you liked what you heard, there are a lot of other episodes in the back catalog to check out. A lot of interesting people that I've interviewed over the years. And I've heard some feedback from people. They've enjoyed listening to the older episodes, and it's been nice to hear that. I'd like to thank Ben McConkey for providing the theme music to this podcast. And again, thank you for listening. Until next time.